Well, good morning, folks, and welcome back to Wishwell Farms. I'm Jason. Thanks for joining me. I am solo this morning. I'm getting ready to head out and pick green beans with our Oxbow BH100 bean harvester. Normally, I have a helper to help me do this because the bean patches have been rather heavy this year, and they come out so fast that someone has to be back there swapping out tubs every few minutes. Actually, about every minute. But the patch we're picking today is pretty thin, and I don't have any help today, so I'm going to have to do this solo. I can't put it off till later in the week because we have so many other things that need harvested. So what I do is put 2 tubs back there, and I drive one length of the field. I keep an eye on it. When I see it starting to, pyramid up and get full, I'll stop and hop back there, either level it off or swap tubs and continue on. So I'll show you the whole process of harvesting green beans solo. Obviously, the first thing we need to do is get this thing hooked up. All right, we're ready to go. Currently out here in the green bean patch that I'm getting ready to pick, and there's definitely some weed pressure out here, but that's not the main issue. The weeds are not so far out of control that it hindered the yield. What happened back here is that it's just bone dry. When these things were set in beans after the flower, the bud and the flower stage, we just haven't had rain since. So the stand, well, I should say the stand, the yield of beans hanging on these plants is going to be terrible. I'll give you a little look at these and you'll see what I'm talking about. See, if I pull these plants back, you see a random bean. They look nice. There's a varying stage of maturity on these plants too. You can see there's some really small pin beans that we don't want to pick. But there's some really nice big ones down there too that we have to get picked because this is our next patch and we're out of beans. So, these are pretty nice. Nice and full and watery inside. I have 16 rows here, so I'm thinking I'll probably only get about 1 tub per row. I'd like to get more than that. So if this patch was going to yield like normal, we would get about 4, 5, 6, 7 tubs per row, and we're only going to get maybe 1, 1.5. I'd be thrilled with 1.5 because that'll give me what I need to get through the weekend. I only need about 18 tubs. So 16 rows here. Let's get started and see if we can get 1 tub per row. Since I'm here picking solo today, I already came and dropped off 18 tubs. I'll put about 6 on here maybe. That'll ensure that I can get around the field. That allows the picking head to go all the way down. And another thing I do before I always get started, I'll clean up some of the debris that I forgot to clean up after the last harvest. I'm going to take the shield off and make sure none of the picking fingers are messed up from hitting rocks last week. So I like to fire it up and I just let it run at idle. It's really windy today. I'm sorry if you can't hear me well. That wind's got to be affecting the sound quality. So I could hear one hitting down here. Yeah, we got one of the picking fingers. It's off to the side because it hit a rock last week. So I'm going to stop it and go put that finger back in place. And of course it ended up on the back side. So I'm just barely going to ease the PTO on. Spin the picking head 1 revolution. There it is, I see it. Now this one's just bit. They could probably stand to be replaced. There's one that's missing, and here's the one that's off center. So we're just gonna pop it back into place. The rest of them look good, but I still want to turn this back on and check them out one more time. There, now it's nice and quiet. All right, I'm gonna put this shield back on and we're gonna get the picking. All right, so I'm gonna take 6 on this round. There's the 2 we're gonna be filling first. And I'll be watching it from up there on my tractor. And when I start seeing beans getting heaped up in this one and maybe start spilling out, I'll come back here and switch the handle so it starts filling the other one. Just finished my first pass on these 16 rows, so just 1 row, and it's not looking good. Take a look at this. A half a tub. So if the next 15 rows are the same, that means I'm going to finish this picking with only 7 or 8 tubs. Nothing I can do about it. If I'm short on beans, maybe I can find some neighboring farms beans for our trailer this weekend. While I was back here, I thought I'd point out our late sweet corn right over here. Got about 3 to 4 acres, probably just about 3 acres. There's 3 plantings there. I'm still picking one over here, back by the dairy barn. A little half-acre patch, maybe a third of an acre patch that I'm hoping to get about 300 or 400 dozen out of. Next week, we'll be moving over here to our final 3 pickings to get us through the rest of September. And as far as green beans go, after I pick these 16 terrible rows, right now I have one more patch of, it's either 8 or 12 right here, and then one more small patch of 8 rows over by our vegetable field where our peppers are planted, and green beans will be done. Just finished picking beans and it's not good. 7 tubs off of those 16 rows. Absolutely horrific. It should have been 4 to 5 times more than that on the normal patch. However, it was still worth picking it because I sell mine by the quart basket at farmers markets. 1 pound quart baskets. Each bushel, so these 7 tubs equals right at 10 bushels of beans. Each bushel weighs 25 pounds. 25 pounds equals 25 baskets times 3, so it's $75 per bushel. So that little amount of green beans right there sold at full retail price off of this approximately 1/5 of an acre. I don't even think it was a 1/4 acre. It's still going to gross $750 at the farmers markets this Saturday. That's only enough for one of our big markets, but I'll probably divide that up into 2 of our markets. The other 2, I'm going to buy some neighboring farms beans. Obviously, because I don't have enough. Nothing I can do about it. I'm just happy that I have some beans. This is kind of what happens in some of our later patches, especially on a dry season like this. Green beans are pretty sensitive when they don't have enough rain. And obviously it really affected these. So I don't have high hopes for this next patch for two reasons. It's very dry. They're already setting their beans. They're like pen bean size, you know, the little miniature beans. So they need rain bad to finish filling out, and there's no rain in the forecast for the next 10 days. So not high hopes for this one. Plus there's weeds. You can see all these weeds here. There are some good spots over the hill, but it's terrible. A lot of grass and some mare's tail right there. This is our last patch of sweet corn, and you can see the burnt corn there. What that is a hose popped off of my nitrogen applicator, and I didn't know about it, so it was like spraying nitrogen all over the place down one row. Probably 3 passes I made on this patch, if not 4. So there's a lot of burnt corn leaves. It'll be all right, but it's not the healthiest looking patch. The dry weather is definitely affecting it. And then we got 2 more patches right here, and that's it. So I think this is only like actually 2.5 or 3 acres at best. These patches look really good. They're pretty clean. This one's probably going to get affected by the dry weather if we don't get rain soon. That one up there, it looks pretty good. I think it'll be all right. And we picked 75 dozen out of that patch this morning right there in front of the silos to the left, and then the one on the right, right along the trail. That is thick. Beautiful looking corn. We should not have a problem getting at least 300 dozen out of there. I'm hoping for 4. But that's the corn I have for this weekend. And man, I just feel like things are really winding down. And it's almost kind of hard to accept that, because it just seems like the other day I had all my employees here and our farmers markets were peaking. The produce yields were peaking in every patch, and it's hard to wrap my head around that this season is coming to an end already. September 3rd, Labor Day was yesterday. It goes by so quick. But when you're in the middle of it, you feel like it's never going to end, and it's just so tough at times. But now I could sense it and feel it, that it's winding down and it's coming to an end very quickly. It's the same thing that happens every year. Fortunately, I still have winter squash, some decent tomatoes to pick, and some decent corn to pick. Zucchini and cucumbers, they're kind of winding down. And no pumpkins this year. So yeah, my season is going to come to an end pretty quickly. Hopefully the broccoli and the cauliflower turns out to be a good crop. It looks really good right now. I've been watering the crap out of that broccoli and cauliflower, just hoping for a good harvest there, so we can move all that at the farmers markets here later in the month. I don't see any heads forming yet, so I'm a little worried that it's going to be a little late. And if it's not being harvested by the end of September, that means it's going to push us into October, and I'm not really too enthusiastic about doing farmers markets in October this year. We're hoping to be wrapping things up here in the next 4 weeks. All right, let's go put this bean picker away, get these beans in the cooler, and see what else we can get into after lunch. Well, I'm just cleaning up some candy onions for tomorrow's sales. And usually what we do is just pull the top off, give it a little rub, make sure there's no dirt and ugly husk on the outside of the onion, and it's good to go. So here's one that's straight out of the field. Just a quick rub and it's done. And you get some bad ones from time to time. I think we left them in the ground just a little too long. This one's kind of squishy. So unfortunately, we're going to have some bad ones from time to time. But when they look like that, those are beautiful. That is a nice candy onion. We have a lot of mediums this year. Probably because I did not fertilize, I did not fertigate, I did not fertilize in the irrigation. So that caused them to stay kind of on the small medium side. But man, did they sell like hotcakes at the farmers markets this past weekend, so I'm not too worried about it. I brought a pair of scissors out here to see if it's faster to cut the top off. Ooh, I like that. You know, you gotta pick up the scissors, because just one extra little step. I might use the scissors. And then it's almost like you got to put them down to use both hands for getting the husk off. And we don't want to take off too much because then we expose, the tender part of the onion. And there's more likely of a chance for it to get dented or scratched or fruit flies to attack it and it'll rot. Sometimes they are a little tough to pull off. I had a comment on my last video about leaving them in the field too long after we pull them. They asked what happens if they get rained on. And I don't think it affects them one bit, because normally this time of year after it rains, things dry back out really quickly. So as long as it's dry afterwards for a couple days, they dry right back out and they should be good to go. Still can't decide if I like the scissor method or just pull them off. They'll probably look a little nicer when you cut the tops off. So we got about 15 more tubs like this one. These are 1 3/4 bushel tubs. We did a couple of them last weekend for the farmers markets, and I think we had maybe 3 or 4 bad onions in each one, so not too bad. And it was probably from being in the soil too long. We probably didn't pull them quite early enough. Sometimes it's hard to tell. There's a little bad spot in that one, but I think we're going to keep it. Well, I'm gonna at least tackle this one crate, maybe a second one, because I don't really have a whole lot else going on. I mean, I got a million things I could be doing. I'm kind of tired today. When I don't have that sense of urgency throughout the day, every day, during the height of our growing and selling season, it's like I start coming down off of this adrenaline high that just keeps me running full steam ahead all summer long. But now that I'm kind of feeling and sensing the end of the season approaching, it's like I'm deflated a little bit. We're trying to relax a little bit more, slow down a little bit more, and it makes me feel tired. I probably need a couple good naps and a couple good nights of sleep, and I'll feel back to normal. But I'm always thinking ahead to some of the fun things we're going to be doing this fall and this winter. So I'm going to be glad that our season is going to be wrapping up here in about less than 6 weeks. Well, we got a lot of grain farming to do. We farm 1,300 acres of grain, about 400 acres of field corn, and 1,200 or 1,300 acres of soybeans. My brother Joel takes care of most of that. My dad helps when he can, but this year he's not able to help too much. He's had some health issues and a broken ankle, so he's kind of confined to his walker and sitting around the house, but he still does a lot of the planning and phone calls and behind the scenes stuff that takes to run a farm. But as far as the physical manual stuff, that's my brother Joel, my nephew Jake, who's always around helping me on the farm, my cousin's son Brett, he's been around here most of the summer too, and I'm going to jump in there and help when I can. Another bad one. Well, folks, I think this is where we're going to wrap this one up. I'm going to finish these onions, head inside and do some editing and planning for my fall RV trip coming up to New England in mid-October. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I'll see you all again real soon down the farm.